Okay, coming on about 20 minutes early. So, if you're watching this in the replay, you want to get right to the main topic, just take that status bar and move it in about 20 minutes. And I'm glad I remembered to say that right off the bat. So, hello. So, hello everyone coming in. Please let me know if my mic volume is okay. I'm still kind of playing around with this new mic. It's a, freestanding one, well, sort of freestanding. And so I thought last week, even though everybody said I sounded fine, it seemed a little quiet to me when I went to do take that piece out to edit. So I'm kind of playing around with it. I wish there was a way I could hear it before I come on live. Okay, Sandy says it sounds good. Okay, let me look at my little thing here. So yeah, I just thought it sounded a little quiet, but sometimes I get a little excited and I can get a little loud or move in a little close, and I don't want to make it, buzzy either. Everybody going, ah, freaking everybody out. So good. Okay. Thank you, people. Thank you for the interaction there. Let me know. I wasn't super crazy with just the overall sound of the mic, but with my onboard mic on this computer, and it's a fairly new computer, being all crackly for a couple of different shows, that was a little bit frustrating. And I think I'd rather have the sound not be as deep or as perfect. But yes, I'm very animated, Tammy. But yeah, I'd rather have that than have it. See, it's not quiet or distorted at all. Thank you. Yeah, I don't that crackly thing, whatever that was all about. So, yeah, I'm really excited about today's show. And there was a couple announcements I wanted to make before we get into the topic. And one is just to remind everybody, though, I plan on just continuing to muscle forward on this YouTube thing despite everything going on. I'm working so hard to try to keep it from continuing to go into this deep downfall. I started, I tend to forget to remind people that make sure that you're subscribed to me on Rumble, because I started Rumble a few years ago as a backup when they first started removing videos and me getting in trouble and me having issues. And I just had another video removed. Actually, I just found another video that was removed, but I think it must have been by me. And I either never re edited it and then put it up, but I'm like, oh, I need to reshoot that video. So that's another one. And then I happened to stumble across two more that thankfully did not get flagged, that I mentioned a certain substance that is now taboo on this platform. It has been for over a year now, but it's like before that, anybody could talk about it. So I have so many videos where I'd mention it. And so I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad I found these before somebody else did." And so I took those down. But the cool thing is, because those videos were in 2020 and more related to the crisis at the time, but I had a lot of great tips in there. I'm like, I should just take those two videos, combine them into one, taking out the parts that I'm not supposed to talk about, and do a new video. It's about grid down tips to get by. So, you're in the middle of a disaster, just some things to kind of think about and think, obviously these are going to be things anyway, some of the stuff that it's a good idea to think about ahead of time anyway. That's why we try to be prepared. But yeah. So at that time, of course, 2020, there was a lot of people that were like, I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for not being able to go to the grocery store and get my toilet paper and my this and my that and the other things I needed. So that was the purpose for that series. I do have one more video in that series that I left up that I think is safe, but it was parts 1 and 2 I had to take out. So anyway, don't forget to subscribe to me on Rumble. Even if you don't like Rumble and you don't plan on watching videos on a regular basis there, if something happens here on YouTube, at least you will know there's there to go still find my videos. And then also, if you're on any of the three main social media platforms, be it X, also known as Twitter or formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So I have a Facebook page, I have Instagram. All of those, let's see, the Facebook and the Instagram are all Rain Country Homestead. And then on, well, I think it's Rain Country Homestead. You should be able to find it that way on Instagram. But all those links are in the description box anyway, all of them. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the description box, past all of the links and whatnot, then you'll find the different social media platforms, including Freesteading, though I'm almost never on there anymore. Let's see. Oh, somebody had a question. I see Linda put something in all caps, but see, is there a way to sort Rumble videos by date? I don't know. I don't know that one. However, I have playlists. You can go to my, oh, and by the way, don't look for me on Rumble. Go to the link in the description box. It doesn't really matter, but you'll find two channels. They're both mine. One is my main controlling account. The other one is the main one for my actual videos and playlists. So that's where all my playlists are. And that's the one where it's the picture of the wooden sign that my daughter-in-law made. Kind of similar to this one here, but it stands out better because she painted it and she painted it in white. Somebody else made me this one. It's actually pretty cool, but it you can't really see the rain country because the color of it kind of blends in too much with the wood. But you can subscribe to both. It doesn't really matter. But if you want to make sure you can access my playlist, you want to make sure you go to the one that has 23,000 subscribers on it. And anyway, I do have things sorted by playlists there. And the very, very first video that was removed from YouTube is actually pinned to the top of that so people can find it easily. That video was the reason why I started Rumble in the first place. Now, but yeah, the other social media sites, even if you don't like hanging out there, if you're like, where's Heidi's channel when you go to YouTube, you can go to any of those sites and I'll definitely make sure every single one of those places, including Freesteading, has an announcement. Now, here's a thought. Oh, I want to see what Linda had to say here. Another channel I follow that says some controversial things says the same thing happening to you is happening to her. Yeah. And the thing is, I don't even think I talk about controversial stuff. I avoid politics, generally speaking, but I see people that talk about politics on all sides and they're just doing fine. And I'm like, I just don't get it. People that talk about conspiracy theories, some of them that I find really more on the crazy side than on the more realistic side, but and I don't fault them for that. I mean, whatever, but they're doing fine. It's like, I'm just talking about stuff I've always talked about that has suddenly become a taboo subject. And most of it doesn't make any sense why it's taboo. I mean, it's so silly. So, what was I starting to say? Okay, so I don't know if any of you follow Corbett Report. I've been following James Corbett for a long time. I don't usually watch all of his stuff, but I really like the one, excuse me, I'm sniffling. I should probably blow my nose so I don't keep sniffling in the mic. I like his new World Next Week that he does with James Evan Pilato. But at any rate, he had his channel completely removed a while back. So he started a new one. Then he also started a backup channel in case his new one gets removed. And I don't know how long he's had his new one. I should go look again. But, you know, I mean, he's still going along, but he used to have a really big channel and it was completely wiped out. Excuse me. Don't want to keep sniffing in the microphone. That's never enjoyable. Anyway, so this is the other thought I had. I'm like, well, if he is able to do that, why would I not be able to do that on YouTube? So I'm considering starting on YouTube a backup channel just in case, and not putting all my videos on there yet, because if I did, then they would be YouTube would notice, okay, there's a duplicate because they pick up on that stuff. And the reason they do, which is it's nice for the sake of the content creator, is some people will try to download your videos and then upload them as if they're their own. This is one of the things I do appreciate about YouTube bots and about YouTube itself, is they will catch that and they will let you know that somebody is using your content. Is this okay? And depending on how they're using it, then usually I'm nice enough to give that person 7 days to remove their content, so they have a window of time to remove my content from their channel so they don't get a strike. Because 'Cause I'm not out to try to hurt people, but I don't want people out there s basically selling my videos as if they're their own, because that's basically fraud. And some people may not know any better. So instead of, wanting that video immediately taken down and having that person given a strike, I like them to get a warning just in case it's somebody who meant well, didn't know it was a wrong thing to do. You think most people should know it's wrong, but some don't. So I'm nice that way. I can actually be a nice person every so often. It happens. It might be rare, but it happens. Anyway, so I'm thinking about this. I just started thinking about it today. It's like, well, why don't I just have, besides the Rumble backup, maybe have a YouTube backup that I only put maybe one video on there that's unique to that channel. It just says, "Hey everybody, this is my backup channel just in case something happens to my other one." And then I would just have to figure out what name, because I wouldn't want it to have the same exact name. You know what I forgot to bring in was my water. I really need my water. I could holler at Patrick, but maybe if you guys can give me a minute, I'm going to run and get my water. Sorry about that. So, gotta have my water. My throat gets dry. And Patrick might be joining us later, maybe. I if it works out, because he's home today. He thought about going up to the property, but it's really kind of wet and nasty out there. It's not currently uh, raining to our B channel. I kind of was thinking that, like maybe Rain Country 2, or like how James Corbett has it. It's like Corbett Report backup channel in parentheses. So I don't know. I'll figure I'll figure something out. Um, there's that part of me that still wonders, well, maybe if my channel gets removed, does that mean I'm just supposed to not keep doing this, or do I keep doing this? Is the kind of the questions that are going through my head, because as a believer, I still keep thinking, well, maybe the Father has different plans for me, or maybe he's just trying to teach me to trust him. And it's like, I don't want to worry so much about it and feel like maybe I'm working hard against something, for something that maybe I need to let go of, but I don't want to be lazy and not try to do my best to keep things going. So, it's just kind of finding that right balance. But I'm not in as dark a place as I was last week. Last week when I came on live, I was really just it was so I was really depressed, but I'm like, okay, I know who truly is in control, and he led me here, and this is where he wants me. He'll keep me here and things will be fine. Maybe he just wants us to continue to trust, and that's all there is. We've been here a couple times before and we always made it through. There was never a bill that went unpaid. We never went hungry, and we always stayed warm. We'll be fine. And I love doing this. Okay, here's the other deal. I don't want to be the person that has to charge for my content. I like YouTube and places and Rumble because I can put the content out there for people to learn from, but nobody has to pay anything. Even Patreon. I can put content on Patreon, and I've thought about that too. But I can make all my posts so that they're public for only so everyone can see it, rather than only the people that choose to donate. And then people have that freedom. If they want to donate, they can donate. If they don't, if they can't do it, they don't have to. And so I still like people being able to access free information, because I think of all the things I've learned over the years through YouTube, through blog sites, through, well, before, it wasn't YouTube at first. It was mostly going and reading blogs, reading recipes, reading how people did things, and then coming up with my own idea. And I didn't pay anything for that. And so to me, this is kind of another way I can give back for all the information I gleaned from other people. So, excuse me. I really like the green. ball jars. I wish they still had these. They only had them out temporarily, and I was able to get these, like, the pint. It was at my local store, $10 for a box of 6. They came out with the blue first, that was kinda similar to the original blue, and then they came out with the green, then they came out with the purple. The green ones are my favorite, but I've broken so many of the green ones. I have some purple ones. I don't think I've ever broken a purple one. I like the purple ones okay, but I've broken, like, half of my green ones. It's like, "What is up with these green ones?" And they're my favorites. And if you want to try to buy them now, well, it's like $100 for 6 of them or something. It's crazy. So I would love to find I wish they would come out with, like, a burgundy colored one. That'd be cool. I'd love to have burgundy. I mean, red's cool too, but burgundy would be cooler. I thought about the amber, but I'm getting sidetracked. Talking about my jars. I got those actually just to use as drinking glasses because I just like that color. It's just a pretty color green. I love green. It's one of my favorite colors. So, what else do we have here? From Rain Country, you can call it From Rain Country, God is good. I like that, but it's kinda long. Um, but, yeah, I'd probably just put a single video out there just to let people know if they come across it. This is my backup channel. Here's my, link to my channel where I have, over 2,300 videos. Um, yeah, and just explain why it's there. So, yeah, oh gosh, it's already almost noon here, my time. Oh, by the way, somebody was asking me, I just happened to see their comment on Facebook because I try to post an announcement to the live show on all the social media. And they said, "Well, what time would that be in my time?" And she's in Canada. I'm like, I wouldn't know that, not without getting online and looking up what time zone it's in. So remember, people, if you anybody posts a time, that's why I always make sure to say Pacific Standard Time. So you can say, okay, well, what's Pacific Standard Time and what's the hour difference? And you can usually figure out then what that time is for you. So like in the US, I'm on the West Coast. That means someone who's like, wait a minute, don't we have 4 time zones? Yeah, we have 4 time zones. And then you have, Mountain Time would be the next one, they're an hour later. And then you have Central Time, which is 2 hours later, and then you have Eastern, which is 3 hours later. And so that's kinda how you figure it out. I used to do, by the way, another sidetrack. Years ago, I used to order from this one company. They were my favorite place to order things for my students, leotards, tights, ballet slippers, and whatnot. And the parents would order through me, and then I would order through them. And because they had the best price and good quality, but they were on the East Coast. And I like to get my order in early as soon as they open. So I'd be calling them in my time, 6 a.m., because they were taking calls at 9. That was long before you could do all this stuff through the internet because everything was still, then through the phone. Yep. 3 o'clock. If it's noon here, it's 3 o'clock on the East Coast if you're in Eastern time. But I wouldn't know if you're up in Canada and if you're, I don't know the exact, Australia, New Zealand, and wherever else people are watching me from. Some people it's the middle of the night. Some people it's the middle of the night the next day or early morning the next day. So, did I have before I get started? I wanted to see. I thought. Oh, one more quick announcement. I talk about this some in tomorrow's this and that, but it was before I finally got to try all the last 2 coffees from Shepherd's Crook. So remember, if you go to their website, you just look it up, Shepherd's Crook. I didn't think to put the link down below, but Shepherd's Crook Coffee. It might even be shepherdscrookcoffee.com. And if you find something you're interested in, you use coupon code RAIN25, you can get 25% off your first order. I don't have an affiliate link with them. I'm just hooking up with them because they're great people and they make really great coffee, family owned small business in the US. Anyway, I was able to try the last 2, which was the Homestead blend and the Colombian. That one is probably it's really hard to choose because 'cause they're all amazing, and there's more than just the 6 I have back here, but, I would say my top 3 out of those is the Colombian, the Shepherd's Blend, and the Honduras. So good. Peru, they're all really good though. It's hard to choose. I think sometimes it just depends on my taste at the moment. I'm afraid I might be becoming a coffee snob when I never was before. Anyway, let's get to the topic. So, because it is time to start. Ooh, according to this clock, I'm right on time. So, I got to do my greeting for the separate video I make out of this. So, hello everyone. God is good all the time. Heidi here from Moraine Country, and welcome everyone. Today I am talking about something I've actually talked about before, but it was another video I had to remove a while back, and about food mongering toxicity. Are these foods really toxic, and a few other things within that topic. Now, I do have a video that I did link to down below. I don't know, sometime within this last year, I think it was, and it was about how not to live in fear. And that's just generally speaking, because those of us who kind of, especially when we first get into, oh, I should be more prepared. Sometimes we do it all out of fear. Now, there's nothing wrong with fear giving you motivation to get started, but we also don't want to live in fear. And I think if I remember correctly, that video was more about that. And then just how to move forward and not live in fear. Because I tell you what, the more prepared you are, the more you have your own gardening stuff, the less fear you have to succumb to. And so, but today I'm talking more about food, especially since that video, I had to remove it because of yet another substance that was added to the taboo list within the past year. And I'm like, seriously? This is just getting dumber by the day. And so, um, I have to be careful what I say, but at any rate, I'll still mention things that get a lot of fear mongering, even though it's absolutely ridiculous. And so far, they're not banned topics on YouTube. And that is things like Brazil nuts, for instance, because they're high in selenium. So people are being taught to be afraid to eat more than 2 Brazil nuts a day because it might kill them. Well, that's just a bunch of nonsense. Because here's the deal: when you're talking about selenium, you're not going to get overdosed by eating with your selenium from its unnatural form like Brazil nuts. That is in reference to taking selenium supplements. The same applies to calcium. If you're getting calcium in its natural form, where everything is properly balanced, just like in the Brazil nuts, everything is properly balanced to, for it to work properly together within our bodies. But if you're taking calcium supplements separately, that can cause some serious issues, as can taking vitamin D3 in high quantities as a supplement. But you can eat a lot of vitamin D3 rich foods and not have to worry about overdoing it on D3. One of the other reasons I wanted to bring this up again about this is that I had another lady recently contact me. So this is 3 people I know of for sure, myself included, who, when taking vitamin D3 as a supplement, started having hair fall. And then so I'd start taking more vitamin D3, thinking, oh, I need more vitamin D3 because my hair is falling out. The hair would start falling out in greater amounts. For me, when I quit taking the vitamin D3, my hair stopped falling out like that. I mean, I still get the regular winter shedding, but there's a difference between what I know is normal and what is abnormal. And when I'm taking vitamin D3, it makes my hair fall out more. What that tells me is I have plenty of vitamin D3, or at least that taking it in supplement form is not right for me. So this is why, yeah, you need to be careful about what words you even use in the chat, by the way. So I'm not seeing all the words, but some people know what they are. So the moderators, I have 2 moderators. If they got to remove it, it's not because you're a bad person or you're saying bad words. It's just to protect my channel. So so don't take it personally, because you might not know. Anyway, but this is why I get frustrated when people say everybody should be taking vitamin D3 supplements. Everybody should be taking iodine. Everybody should be taking this, that, or the other thing. and they're talking about supplements. And when that is just simply not true, you're taking a blanket statement and just throwing it onto everyone. That would be like saying a doctor saying, well, everybody should take antidepressants. Well, they pretty much do. But the answer to that would be no, not true. In fact, I personally don't believe that most people, should not be on them. But or saying that everybody needs to be taking oxycodone, codeine, whatever it is. No. So to make a blanket statement and say everybody needs to take this particular supplement or this particular pill it's just wrong. And I get tired of people preaching it because maybe they needed it. That's fine. And if it's helping them, that's great. But to assume that because someone over here said or some book that they read said that everybody needs more than they're getting, well, that blanket statements aren't right. However, here's the great thing about Whole Foods. It's funny how we're made to be afraid of Brazil nuts, but we're not made to be afraid of taking too many supplements, and possibly causing health issues. We're not being told this. So, yeah, so anyway, I had a lady email me saying that she was taking high doses of vitamin D3 and her hair was just falling out like crazy. And I told her, I think you need to just quit taking it altogether. Either cut way back or quit taking it altogether and see what happens. My son, the same thing. He's kept my hair. And I said, are you taking vitamin D3? Yeah. And he was taking it to get his hair fall to stop. I said, then you need to either cut way back or you need to stop. Well, he cut back. He said the hair fall slowed down, but it's still falling out probably more than it should. And I personally think he just needs to stop taking it altogether. But because we're taught that, well, we have to take it. Well, if you're having these side effects, it's possible you're getting too much. So it's really hard to find, but you can find it if you do some really deep research. Usually, when you try to look up vitamin D3 toxicity and hair loss, what you'll find is a lot of sites that will say, well, if you're losing your hair, you need to take vitamin D3. But I finally found a couple of different ones where if you go all the way down to the bottom, they say, but too much can cause your hair to fall out too. It's like, there you go. And so I know for sure 3 different people taking vitamin D3, hair fall, stop taking it. Yeah. And there was a change. So sorry, I'm reading some of this stuff. I think we need to be okay. I already saw that. All right. So with that said, let me mention a few more things that we're taught to be afraid of, and that is like raw elderberries. Generally speaking, yes. But it's not the elderberry as a whole. It's the seed. Well, when you consider how small the elderberry is, who's going to de-seed an elderberry to eat it? But once you cook it, it's not a problem. However, and this applies to the red elderberries too. I was reading how a lot of times Native Americans didn't always cook their elderberries. They just ate them raw with seeds and all and would just follow it up with a lot of water, just drinking a whole bunch of water. And so while I would still recommend cooking the elderberries, when I make my elderberry tincture, I make it with dried elderberries that were dried from a raw state. They aren't necessarily cooked, they're just dried. There is a difference between being dried and cooked. I mean, you can have something dry at a high heat and have it cook, but it just all depends on the heat that's being dried at. Sorry, I'm especially dry today. Speaking of dry, just man, my throat, my mouth. Um, yeah. Right, right. So here's the deal. Um, like the calcium, when you're getting it from the foods that are high in calcium, also have magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, manganese. All these minerals are needed to work together rather than being taken separately. But if you just look it up, okay, look up foods that are high in calcium. and then look and then find out if those same foods also have magnesium and so on and so forth. You'll find that they do. And so, like, here's an example. I do talk about this in tomorrow's this and that video, but I'll bring it up again here. Is right here I have ground eggshells from my own chickens. Now, I don't always remember to do this, but I take the eggshells, I grind them up and take them as my supplement for calcium because the eggshells are also high in all those other minerals. And so they're properly combined within the eggshell. And I can tell when I need more calcium because my teeth will start to turn a little grayish. Well, it's not really gray. If you see your teeth turning gray, look closer. What you're seeing isn't your teeth are turning gray, is that they're turning translucent, which means they don't have as much mass in there as they should, and you need more of your minerals, not just calcium. So when I start taking like maybe a teaspoon to a tablespoon of my eggshell powder every day, within a day, 2, 3, I see huge difference. I mean, I see a difference immediately. It shows like the very next day, and then the more I keep up on it, the more I see my teeth taking on the proper color that they should have. So, again, because it's properly combined and it's cheap, it's actually free, really. Because most a lot of people might think to just throw their eggshells away, which I don't. They either get fed back to my chickens or they get used like this or they get used in the garden. So, um, the food thing, like the elderberries, you know, this it's not you don't have to be as scared of them as you think because some people are a little worried about what if I get a little, you're picking your own elderberries, but it's really hard to get all those stems off there. What if you, don't worry about it. If you're cooking it, it doesn't matter because the toxic stuff that's in the stems and the leaves is the same as in the seeds, and you can cook that out. So if you're cooking it, you're making a decoction out of it, you don't have anything to worry about. So I don't worry about getting every teeny tiny little piece of stem off my elderberries. What are a few other things that I oh gosh, and before I shot that last video, somebody said, I don't know if they're just being a troll, but I'm like, "Are you serious?" Somebody said, "But I heard," I don't remember what video it was on. "I heard that oregano," this is all caps, okay. "I heard that oregano is toxic." And I'm like, "Nah, this has gotta be a joke. Are you for real?" Oregano or oregano, however you pronounce it from where depending on where you're from, but no, it's not. Now, oregano oil can be really hot and it can burn you if you're not careful. So maybe that's what they're thinking of. But a few other things, nutmeg. That's another big, oh, let's be scared to death of nutmeg because somebody over here took massive amounts of nutmeg and they died or they got really sick. Anything in high quantities can be toxic. And even if you're drinking the healthiest, cleanest, purest water, if you're drinking a gallon in a short period of time, it can kill you. So it's about moderation. So one of the examples I like to give people, it's like, okay, if you believe in going to the doctor and getting your prescriptions, what does that prescription come with? It comes with a certain amount. Now, remember, that particular medication that the doctor prescribes is all guesswork. It might be educated guesswork, but it's still guesswork because he's not going to know if that's medication is going to be right for you until you take it and you start having issues with it. Okay, well, let's try another one. And then the amount he prescribes or she prescribes, that is also guesswork. But regardless, when you go home and you got that bottle of medication, are you gonna take the whole bottle all at once because, "Well, this is supposed to help"? No, that would be stupid. You would take 1 or 2, however many is prescribed at a time. So, when we're looking at especially when we're looking at certain herbs and foods that we're taking for this or we're consuming for the sake of helping with ailments, think of it the same way. It's not about taking a whole bunch of something. Like I'm going to eat a bowl of Brazil nuts, of raw Brazil nuts, this big, to help with my thyroid. Well, that would just be dumb. Okay. I still don't think the Brazil nuts would hurt you, but let's say raw horseradish. Raw horseradish can be toxic in high quantities. And I've shared this story before, but years ago, there was somebody that I knew pretty well, and we were friends on Facebook, and we kind of lost touch, but we were still friends on Facebook. They never interacted on my posts until the day I put out, this was years ago, this is before, long before I started my channel. I put out a post about the benefits of raw horseradish. And this person comes in and says, raw horseradish is toxic in high quantities. And I'm like, well, first of all, let's just stop and think about this. How many people are going to take raw horseradish and fill up a big bowl of it and just eat it? Just eat it. I I don't know. Maybe somebody would do that. I don't know if they'd have any sinuses left by the time they were done, but yeah, typically when we're eating things like horseradish, we're eating it in small quantities. It's not going to be toxic. And the chances of it being toxic to you are incredibly slim. But the amount of benefits. So here's this long list. Let's just say it's this list. You got this long list of benefits of raw horseradish. But down here at the bottom, can be toxic in high quantities. Okay. Would I rather take this or this prescription that has a long list of side effects, but might help with this particular ailment? Which one makes the most sense here? So I just get really, really frustrated with the constant fear mongering. And here's some more I'm going to go on about. And that is, there's a lot of people on special diets because they're trying to heal their gut, or they're trying to heal this, or they're trying to heal that. I have absolutely nothing against that. I think it's great that people can find maybe a carnivore diet or a dairy-free diet or a vegan diet or whatever diet, grain-free diet, whatever it is. If that's what you need to do to heal your body, great. But that does not mean that that diet is right for everyone, or that that diet is right for a long period of time. Usually things like that are used to help heal the body of whatever ailment is going on. But our bodies are made to consume foods from all categories, from the grains, from the meats, the dairy, the eggs, the fruits, the vegetables, because we've also been taught to fear vegetables. We've been taught to fear fruits. We've been taught to fear the fish. It doesn't matter if it's farm raised fish. Well, it's farm raised, or if it's wild caught. Oh no, it's got high levels of whatever. I mean, there's always something that we're being taught to be afraid of when it comes to what we eat. So pretty soon what we're doing is we're scared to eat or drink anything. But then what's going to happen? Well, then we're going to have to worry about dying from starvation or dehydration. And it's a matter of, obviously, when you're looking, let's say with the meats, you're wanting to look at your most organic, naturally raised meats, eggs, dairy that you can find. Typically, the most local that you can find, or that which you raise yourself, is going to be best, but that is not going to work for everyone. Not everybody has space to grow their own cattle or raise their own chickens, even. And so you just got to find what you can get. And in the grand scheme of things, even the stuff that I would say is the most toxic when it comes to food, it's the stuff that's put out by companies, by major companies, the big 5. But if you were in a situation where there was no other food around, food's still going to be food. You still need calories to keep you alive. So that means that organic blonde cane sugar that you have, that you're supposed to be afraid of because it's poison, or the fruit, the whole fruit that you're picking off your trees, well, it's poison because they have a lot of sugar in them. Those are carbs. and you need those, okay? Especially if you're in a situation where you need extra energy and you're starving. Same thing goes with the meats. You're going to need them. If you're having to work extra hard because you're now in a much tougher situation, regardless, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a worldwide or even town-wide hardship. It can be something that just affects you. So, food is going to be food. The having the most naturally raised, most organic food on hand is obviously the number one choice. But I just think we got to stop preaching at everybody about how, well, eggs are bad for you. I mean, how many times? Okay, I'm 58 years old. And in that period of time, I don't know how many times eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you, eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you, eggs are good for you, eggs are. What is it, people? And you know what? Every time these messages start coming out, it's always in regards to another product somebody wants to sell. Crisco, for instance. We're going to go ahead now and margarine. Let's make butter evil and bad for you so that we can sell our margarine in Crisco every time. Every time. So if a corporation is pushing something on you and trying to convince you that something is bad for you, be it a natural medicine, be it a natural food, it's because they have something to sell you. Same goes for supplement companies, though. If they can convince you that you should be taking 100,000 IUs of D3 every day because you'll die if you don't, now they're selling you a product. This is what we have to remember. Let me see here. There's a few other things that, well, I had Warclim on the list. That's another one. Some of you will get that reference, but apparently you cannot talk about that either. Let's see, was there anything else? I know there's more. Comfrey is another one that often gets a bad name. Yet comfrey is such an incredible herb that has, excuse me, many health benefits both externally and internally. I grow it mostly for the sake of using externally, but I've made, at first I was afraid to make teas out of it because I heard so many scary, scary things. But what you find is that, especially if you're talking about the leaves, obviously you're not going to overdo it, but a cup of comfrey leaf tea every day isn't going to kill you. It can actually be very, very beneficial. So when I have my comfrey grown and fresh, I try to remember to add a leaf or two to my to my sorry, Tammy, to my tea. Well, like it doesn't matter if it's peppermint tea or whatever, because comfrey has a nice mild flavor and scent to it that blends well with just about anything. And it makes me feel really good. But I use comfrey for healing broken bones, bruises, and sprains too, as a soak. So, but people are like, but I heard it can kill you. I heard it can cause liver disease. Well, let's see. First of all, the root is where most of the is the most powerful, which is common in a lot of your herbs. The root is going to be the most powerful part of the plant, but that's where you're going to be more apt to maybe overdose, get a little too much when it comes to the comfrey. I've never personally used the root. I've always just used the leaves, but some people use the roots. So, I mean, and I can even like, let's see, valerian is one that I don't know of any other than it causing vivid dreams, and some people have a hard time with valerian, but I prefer to use the leaves when I'm making certain things, like my pain extract, pain and inflammation. I'll use those with some other herbs. Um, When I'm doing the deep sleep tincture, I will use the roots, but the roots are way more powerful. They're also more smelly, but they're much stronger, so you don't need to take as much. So you're gonna find that's common when it comes to, um when it comes to a lot of those kind of plants. The roots are usually gonna have the most power-packed benefits, but that doesn't mean that you have to stick with just the roots. Maybe you would be, if you're really sensitive to valerian, Using leaves or the flowers or both instead may be better for you to make tea out of to help you sleep or relax. And they taste better too than the root and don't smell as bad. In fact, the flowers can smell quite good when they're fresh. In my when my garden is full of valerian flowers, it's a really a nice aroma. But if you think about it, you're like, okay, I can still smell that valerian smell in there, but for some reason it smells good in this form. So, those are just a few examples. Let me talk a bit more about certain nutrients. And again, I'm going to say that I am not going to preach against supplements. We keep supplements on hand, but we don't take them every day. And you can make your own whole food supplements, turmeric, moringa, if it's easier for you to take it that way in capsules. But I try to go like when I take this, I hate making capsules. I have capsules, I make capsules sometimes, but I find the cheapest way to go about it is anything that I'm going to take that I don't really want to eat necessarily is mix it with some kind of liquid and just drink it down really fast, like just a little bit of liquid with whatever it is. And then just drink it down fast. If it's something I don't enjoy the flavor of, because then I don't have the hassle of making the capsules and and the cost of buying the capsules, the empty ones to fill. And I really hate doing that. I mean, I do it if I have to, but oh, dandelion. Thank you for mentioning dandelion. That's another one. I When I was a little girl, I remember I've always loved dandelions, like, I just thought they were pretty. I liked them. And but I never thought of eating them, and I remember somebody told me, which was another kid, that the milky part, the sap inside the stem was poisonous and to be careful not to eat it. I was like, "Really?" So for years and years, I really thought, I mean, clear into adulthood, I thought that was toxic because one other little kid said that her parents told her that that was toxic. Or I don't think they said toxic. We used poisonous. It's poison. And I thought, well, I wonder if I was one of the few that thought that. And then sometime within the last year or two, somebody came into one of my videos on dandelion and said, "Well, I thought that white stuff in the stem could kill you." It's like, no. In fact, that stuff there is packed full of goodness. The whole dandelion plant, from the roots to the flowers, the leaves, the stems. In fact, my favorite part of the plant to consume raw are the stems, fresh off the plant. When it first gets a flower on it, pick the flowers and to dehydrate for making my salves and whatnot with or teas, and then I'll eat the stem. I love it when it's crispy, not when it gets tough. Later when it gets tough, it's not so enjoyable. That's my favorite part. It's not as bitter as the root or the leaves. It just has a subtle sweetness to it, and then it's got this nice crunch. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of goodness out of that stem when I eat it. And it hasn't killed me yet. So just because even somebody you thoroughly trust, says that something's toxic, do your own research into that and find out for yourself. Because one of my early videos I did on calendula, on the benefits, I was only talking about the flowers. And I think I even said in that video that the leaves are toxic. Well, that was because I did a little research. Can you eat the leaves of calendula? And what I came across is that they were toxic. One site. I only went to one site. This is one of the reasons why I learned to not stop at one site and just believe what they said. Well, somebody had come in and watched that video. Yeah, I did say that. And somebody came in and watched that video and said, actually, no, the leaves are edible. You can eat them. I actually eat them quite a bit. I add them to stir fries and whatnot. And I'm like, really? So I did some more searching, and sure enough, I did some more searching and found that they are indeed edible. And I've eaten a couple of them. They're kind of a slightly bitter, spicy type flavor that I can see going well in certain dishes. But I mostly grow them for the flowers. But At any rate, that's funny. So I love self heal. I just read for it's going to be a Rumble only video because of a couple of the things that were mentioned. But I'm doing the whole series on natural healing testimonies. Well, I have one already over on Rumble that I couldn't put on YouTube. Well, this morning I shot a video, so it's going to be a second one. It'll be out quite a ways, but yeah, it's like a part 2 to the Rumble only natural healing testimonies where I got a few really, really good testimonies. But in there, somebody mentioned self heal, which is not a taboo subject, but it was part of her whole testimony. And one of the things is definitely a taboo one. So, yeah, and so I just got self-heal in my garden. Well, I'm not gonna say I just got it, I just realized that was what was coming up in my garden this last year. I think it's been in there for a couple of years, so I'm looking forward to this next year of giving it a more dedicated area to just let it grow so that I can harvest and dry it and use it for teas and tinctures and salves and whatever else, but I did do a video on it once I learned about it. So it's part of my series on herbs and more benefits and uses. That's the name of the whole playlist. And I think there might still be over 90 videos in there, even though I've had to take some out. But oh, hello, Carol. No worries being late. No worries. I realize that this time is going to be sketchy for no matter what time of the day I come on, it's going to be kind of a hit and miss for a lot of people. Um, but this is a time that kind of works best for me. Actually, I would really like to go on earlier because after I shoot my first video, I'm just like, I get anxious and I just want to go ahead and get started on my live show. Though it's a good idea for me to give my vocal cords a rest in between because of those nodules that want to swell up. But I would, but I keep thinking, it seems like middle of the day, my time might still be best for most people. Because for some people, it'd be way, way too early, and some people would be well, it'd be way, way too early. I used to dry my self-heal on a cardboard, dried beautifully. Very cool. Very good. Oh, and I did go through last week's chat, and I didn't see any questions in there that it looked like I missed, but when I go through it like that, I'm just looking for things in all caps. So if you have a question for me and, or statement, whatever you think that's important, put it in all caps because that's what stands out that and I know to look for that. I know it's not just people talking back and forth to each other. And so when I go back over and look at the chat to see if there's any questions I can address that I missed while I was live, then I try to address them either in a this and that or in the next live show. So, okay, supplements. Sorry, I was going to go back to talking more about the supplements. So I just want to rehash the whole idea that when it comes to your things like your vitamin D, your calcium, your B vitamins are best not taken individually, but taken in a complex form. Where are you going to find B complex can be really expensive to find and purchase. But where do you think you're going to find B in its most complex form? It's going to be in, well, your meat, especially your red meat. Red meat has, what is it? Which B vitamin is it? Is it B12? I forget which. You guys, some of you probably know, but it's going to have one of those B's that you're only going to find in your red meats. Though, you remember back when the red meats were, oh, that's bad for you. You should stop eating red meat. You should only eat chicken or whatever, and you should only eat the dry white meat of the bird because the dark meat is bad for you. The best, tastiest part, you mean? B12. So okay, I was right. According to Trina. So Trina, I'm going to assume you're right because you agree because that's what I was thinking. So, or the D3. D3 needs to be taken with K2. However, K2 supplements are pretty much worthless from what I was looking into, and it doesn't surprise me. So, what's the best way to get D3? Well, in its whole food form, which is going to be animal products. You can get D2 and K1 from plant-based products, but D3 and K2 have to come from animal-based products. So your dairy, like butter, eggs, the yolk part, the part we used to be taught was really bad for you. Um, Yeah, that kind of stuff, like fatty fishes, like salmon and mackerel and, sardines. So that's where you're gonna get those things where they're naturally together the way they should be, and you don't have to worry about vitamin D3 toxicity in that case, which vitamin D3 toxicity also can lead to hypercalcemia, I think is what it's called, where you're getting too much calcium because calcium kind of depends on D3 for it to work properly, to get that going in the blood there, but too much of calcium is then gonna have its own issue. So real food, all of your nutrients are combined properly in your real food, in your real whole foods, that there should be no need to spend extra money to take supplements. And the best supplements, the best whole food type supplements can be quite expensive. Again, I'm not against doing that if you really need it, especially just like special diets to help your body heal. Sometimes we need to take certain supplements to help us our bodies heal from whatever it is. Healing our thyroid because we were told we had low thyroid and then we were on medication for 15 years until we decided we're just going to stop the medication and figure out how to deal with it ourselves. You might need to take iodine for a little while to get your thyroid boosted and running properly, working properly. For me, iodine wasn't the answer. It wasn't definitely not the answer. Though people say, yeah, but everybody needs iodine. No, not everybody needs iodine. Some people, yes, not everyone. But again, you can get iodine naturally from certain foods as well. So 15,000 D3 a day. So, Di, what I'd like to know is have you had any issues with hair falling out taking that much per day? If not, then that's good. But you still need to make sure you're getting vitamin K if you don't want to end up with hypercalcemia, which can cause, is it kidney stones, gallstones, something like that. That's why you have to be careful about taking vitamin D3 without the proper nutrients it's supposed to work together with, because the K2 is going to help prevent that hypercalcemia. So K2 is found in many veggies. So K2 is also found. I know that K1, Betty, is found in a lot of vegetables, but I hadn't heard of K2 being, because I was looking it up. I couldn't. I think the only thing non-animal based product that D3 and K2 are found on were things like, is it chlorella or something like that? Um, so I see the question on what foods increase blood. At the top of my head, I know that raw garlic is really, really good for blood flow. Off the top of my head, I'm not always that great at that, but it's really easy to look these things up. Just type it into your browser. What foods help increase blood volume or whatever it is exactly you're looking for. Um, what in blood, red or white? Are Trina, are you asking Shawana that question? I'm not sure who you're asking. If you're asking me or them, it's not in all caps, so I'm assuming you're asking them. By the way, with that in mind, iron is another thing that a lot of people should not be taking. And especially if you are of Mediterranean descent and you have a blood trait called thalassemia, do not take iron. It can be very, very detrimental to your health. So I'm thalassemic because of my Mediterranean Italian descent, as is much of my family. And so we don't take iron ever. I cook in cast iron and that doesn't bother me, but I know what it feels like to get too much iron. And I know I've shared this story before, but for new people, I used to be really big in taking B complex vitamins. And I mean, this is a long time ago. And I was taking a B complex that I found at Costco. I'm like, wow, it's a good deal for a B complex, but did not take the time to really, really look at everything that was in there. So I'm taking this B complex and I'm getting every day a little more tired, a little more tired, a little more tired. I'm trying to teach dance. I'm trying to do my big, demonstrate the big grand jetés across the floor, and I can hardly even get off the ground. And I'm like, there's something seriously wrong here. And it dawned on me, this kind of feels like maybe I've been taking iron, but I haven't been taking iron. And then I was walking by the refrigerator. I always keep all my supplements on top of the refrigerator. And I happened to glance up and see that bottle of B complex. And I'm like, maybe I should check this out because this is the only thing in the past couple months that I've been doing different. I looked at the back and it was high. Uh-oh, did I freeze? Okay, looks like I'm still on. I saw it kinda jitter there. It was really high in iron, and I'm like, "Oh, no, that would explain why I'm getting so sick and why I'm so tired and can hardly get out of bed in the morning," and I'm a morning person. I mean, I'll be falling asleep on the couch at 7 o'clock at night, just, but in morning, I'm up and at 'em, and it was getting hard to get out of bed, and once I realized that, immediately stopped taking them, and it took about as long for me to finally get completely back to normal as it was for me to take them. So if I was taking them for 2 months, it took 2 months to finally get back to normal because my it was gonna take a while for all that excess iron to get out of my system. Questions that were asked. Uses for rose hips and comfrey tinctures. I have videos on these. A lot I don't personally use rose hips because the roses I grow don't get good rose hips. A lot of people make teas out of rose hips. They're high in vitamin C. Comfrey, I don't use in a tincture. I use in salves. I use it in my homemade skin cream, and I use it for soaks to heal sprains and bruises. But I also do occasionally make comfrey I just said I don't make tincture. I make teas. Like I said earlier, I like to throw in a fresh comfrey leaf into whatever tea I'm making. Tammy Harder says, I have low thyroid. I am on thyroid med. My hair falls out from it. I have several allergies and fibromyalgia. I am trying to weed through it all. So, Tammy, I recommend all I can say is what we did. It was based on my own research and what was available to me at the time. There's no magic herb that will can heal your thyroid. It's about making changes to your diet and maybe the water you drink. If you are drinking city tap water and they fluoridate, you need to find another water source or get an expensive fluoride filter. Our choice was to set up a rainwater catchment system so we can, have control over what's in our water. And we clean the water. And that was one of the biggest things that made change. Get rid of all Teflon pans. Anything with Teflon, that includes that Hexclad. I know it's expensive, but it's Teflon too. If you read, they don't advertise it. You have to go to the website and you have to really, really look. It's Teflon. Teflon is tetrafluora. Oh, I always forget the full name. It's this long, the word. It's fluoride is what it is or fluorine. And fluorine is very, very hard on the thyroid. So that's one of the biggest things that has to go. And then you start looking at herbs and things like Brazil nuts because they're high in selenium. Eating 2 to 3 Brazil nuts a day will help boost your thyroid. So and I started growing nettle because nettle's very nourishing to the thyroid. But anyway, I did a video, Patrick and I did one back in 2018 together where we both just kind of shared our own sort of issues that we had while we were on the medication and so we kind of were telling our own story. So it's sort of long. But then I also go through a list of stuff, which I also took time to type up and put it in a separate link and link to that, which is a list of foods and things to add to your diet, a list of things to remove from your diet. Some of those things might simply be just for a time. So I hear Patrick bustling around out there. I don't know if he's coming in or not. He might be because I have a special topic I was hoping he would talk about. And if not today, maybe another day, but hopefully he'll get in here. Because I've talked quite a bit on my topic today. I covered quite a bit. But really, it boils down to don't live in fear. Because if you're living in fear of everything around you, you're living in fear of what's going to happen, just like me, being afraid and worried about what's going to happen to my channel. All that's going to do is take a bigger toll on your health. and worrying about, the food you eat, the water you drink, and, oh, should I eat meat? Should I eat eggs? Should I eat cheese? Just look for the healthiest food you can and eat it. And then if you're allergic to it, don't eat it. Don't live in fear of it, because that fear is going to be far more detrimental to you and your body than eating a good healthy dose of Brazil nuts, or adding some oregano to your salad dressing or whatever, or your Italian sauce. Um, Taking that elderberry syrup that might have had a few pieces of stems still in it. Don't be afraid of it. Are you out there? Were you wanting to come in, or? Oh, you can if you want. I'm done with my topic. I'm still just chatting. But if you're wanting to come in and talk about that stuff, I asked him to. So I have some things here. I wanted to show you guys this while I'm waiting for him to get set up. So we don't celebrate Christmas, as most of you know, but I still have winter decor that I like to put out. I got a couple of things back there. And anyway, this I just added to it this year. It's actually a little holder. It's supposed to be like for candy canes. My dad was a Baptist minister. And when I was like 6 years old, there was this elderly couple that had bought this for me. And I've always loved her. She's still in perfect shape. I think I was like 6 years old. So I was like 52 years ago. And I just thought I still think she's so pretty. And just the fact that they didn't buy me just a little dolly or some candy. They bought me this neat little thing that I could treasure forever. And so I used to put candy canes in it, but now I still like to put her out as a winter decoration. Yeah, this is supposed to go like that. And so I just put wintry sprigs in there and set her out. And then another decor that an elderly lady that was crippled up or something. Her mom she was making these beaded snowflakes, and her daughter was selling them on Facebook because it was the one thing she could do. She just did it because she enjoyed it. And so I actually ordered up a bunch of these just because they were so pretty, and to support her because it was fun. And then the other thing, while he's still setting up, was, remember, I've got instructions on how to make these little jar covers. I just made up a new set of 3. I didn't put the link down below, but you can go in there and find it. Just put jar covers on my channel as a search, or if you're using a smart device, put Rain Country jar covers and you'll find the instructions. This one's just like a floral print, but this one here, I don't know if you can see, it's got eggs and chickens. This one's also a chicken one. It's just hard to tell because it's small. It's got roses and roosters. But I love these things for when I'm making vinegar, or if I'm just got stuff sitting out on my counter and I just want it to look cute. So I just made these 3 new ones I'm thinking about gifting to a friend. And that's why they're out. But I just wanted to show you guys that for fun. And if you're interested in making some, there you go. So he walked back out again. Maybe I'll get some of this stuff out of his way so that he did bring some of his goodies in here. I'm kind of excited because I think it'll be a fun topic if he gets in here. I don't know where he disappeared to. And am I out of stuff to talk? How could I be out of stuff to talk about? I'm never out of stuff to talk about. I guess I could see if there's any. Fear is based on the feeling of a lack of control. You know what? That is so true. Concentrate on the things you can control and try to put aside the things we cannot control. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That is so true. And that, and that's the thing. I can't control what YouTube's going to do to my channel. All I can control is trying to get myself out there the best I can. And, if they decide to take it all away, we'll figure it out. But until then, I'm going to still try to lay some groundwork, but try not to live in fear and worry about it. So here he comes. Ooh, he's kind of scary. I'll move over a little bit to give him some space because he might need it.
Give me some space, Blister.
He needs space.
Hey, everybody.
Scoot in this way some more if you can.
Get close and personal.
Get close and personal.
Well, this whole thing started when she wanted me to show a couple of hand tools for keeping on hand in case you didn't have any power.
Right.
Some of the most rudimentary type tools that you want to start off with. I think it's the first and probably first and foremost.
There we go.
I'm supposed to be looking up here, huh?
Yeah, you're supposed to be looking
Right
up there.
there?
I'm just
Okay.
trying to get you more centered.
Anyway, I think the first thing that I'd be looking for is some way to cut wood when it comes to tools. And this is a little hand axe. Yes, there you go. It all depends on if you're wanting to be a little more mobile or something you could stick in a pack. Obviously, the more weight that you have to a tool, the more effective it is in your swinging. I really like this full-size axe. This is a Fisker's. If you ever break this axe, you could take it back, and Fisker's will replace it.
This long handle.
I found this out in the woods when I was cutting firewood one time. And it's the best axe I've ever owned.
And that guy was probably like, dang.
Yeah, he's probably, what did I do with that thing? But the secret to this guy is see how this is beveled out? This is beveled out. When you go ahead and strike the wood, it actually helps to push it apart. So it kind of assists you a little bit. So probably the tool you really wanted me to show him was
I think it's cool.
I'll show him the brazen bit, but this is not, take this out of the list of the most important things.
Essentials.
Yeah. But, these are pretty handy to have. Some of you old timers know what this is called. Anybody tell me what that is?
Don't know.
And this is the type of bit that goes in there. And this can make,
Hand drill.
Hand drill, or it's actually most technically, if you look up brace on the internet, you'll find this guy. And this is a bit, so a bracing bit. It's got the little angular thing on there, but you can also put regular round drill bits in this thing and it'll work.
Cool.
So that's pretty handy if you're wanting to make wood dowels to fasten poles together. I'm not saying that it is not a handy tool, but it's not the most essential tool that I would keep in my grab it and go type of a situation. More for me, it's how you cut wood is probably more important than how you fasten it together, because you can take twine and different things. 550 cord is what I like to keep in my go bag, and a little bit of wire. Maybe wire's heavier than cordage. So the second thing that I would consider putting in my bag is one of these little saws. This is I think it's made by Corona, I think. Corona, yeah, Corona. And I just got this down here at the local store. And what this is, and by the way, don't ever get something like this or a knife that doesn't have a cutting blade, a locking blade on it. Because if you do get something that doesn't have a locking blade, make sure that you put a first aid kit in your repertoire of things, because inevitably, if that's not locked, you can come up on yourself and cut your little fingers or arm or whatever off.
You want to try to keep your digits.
So the way these things work is they saw when you're drawing this. I can't get where that dug on.
It's frustrating.
So when you're drawing, that's when it cuts, and it takes a lot less energy to draw because you're putting more of your weight into pulling back on it if you're cutting off a limb or something like that off a tree than it does to push. So having one of these, the longer the better. This one here, I just took out of my my go bag. And I just have this folded up and resting in the bottom of my go bag. It's light, it's durable. Fiskars also make these things. And they do make them longer. The longer, the better. So the less energy, the less strokes that you have to fool with when you're cutting firewood or you're cutting limbs and such.
I was laughing at Jesus saying that. I'm usually saying something like that hand spin drilly thing. That sounds like me. That's kind of like the
I would know what you're talking
hand
about if you
spinning
said that.
drilly thingy.
It's all about communication, right? That's all that matters. Do we know what each other's talking about?
Did you know what I meant? Okay.
Yeah. So the other type of bit that will go on a brazen bit is one of these adjustable type bits that I'm turning with my right hand, or the lower
The
bit.
bottom hand.
You can adjust this for different width holes. I got all these old tools from a guy. His dad had just passed away, and he got all this stuff from his grandfather. And so I thought it was kind of cool to kind of rummage through this stuff and say, hey, you know, this might come in handy. One more important thing I'm going to tell you is, if you have something like this, axes, chisels, any of that kind of stuff, you really ought to consider getting things that you can sharpen them with and actually know how to sharpen them. There's a lot of people out there that don't know how to sharpen bits and chisels in specific.
You have a video you did several years ago on sharpening a, what was it?
Machete?
See?
Yeah.
See? He knew what I meant.
You know, and if a machete's not a bad tool to have either. But
I'm just saying that
right here,
I wanted to look that up.
I just have a few. Well, where's that doggone thing at? A few files here. This one here is a triangular file. Where is that thing? Right there. See, that's a triangular file, and you use that for filing small items like a crosscut saw, and that's another thing you might consider getting. But flat files, different sizes, different size files. So this particular bit right here, somebody has filed on the outside of this piece right here. They should get a spanking and sent to bed without supper for doing that.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't Heidi. But the way you sharpen this guy is you have to, I can't get on that camera.
The camera's confusing because you want to look at the picture like it's a mirror, but you have to.
So right in here, there's a flat spot right in there, and you want to keep the same angle as the manufacturer had built that. Of course, you can adjust this. You can adjust this out and get more room in there, but you're going to want to go the same angle. You don't want to file on the bottom. You want to file where they surfaced it in original, when they originally made this thing. This particular one here, that defines the edge of the hole. This one also defines the edge of the hole. This one here, there's actually two cutters, one setting inside and one setting outside. Am I getting all this in the film?
Yeah, you were.
Okay. So you want to file on the inside of this, not on the outside. Is that easy to see? Don't want to file here, but you want to file on the inside if that gets dull. These are kind of neat because you can have one tool fits all kind of situation, as opposed to the deeper augers. Like if you're wanting to make wooden dowels to fasten two logs together. Oh, I want to back up. This is number 0. This is the absolute. If you don't have one, if you don't have one of these, you're wrong. This little guy here has a pair of pliers, wire cutters,
Leatherman
screwdrivers, the Leatherman Wave. And again, you get what you pay for when it comes to these tools, this particular type of tools. They make cheaper ones, but they're not going to last you. It's got a little pair of scissors on it, and all of these are locking tools. They all lock, but this is a little pair of scissors. They do come in handy, those scissors. This is a finite screwdriver. It's, my glasses are messing with the screen here. So that's a Phillips, and that's a fine regular or flat tip screwdriver for delicate work.
For fixing your glasses.
For fixing your glasses so you can see what you're doing. Now I can't see to put this back in that little tiny hole. There we go. This obviously has a good quality knife on it. It has a file. And
I keep a Skeletal in my purse. It's a Leatherman, but I like that one because it's a little lighter weight and it has everything I need on it.
Well, what I like about this one here, it has this little saw. That little saw is really aggressive and sharp. I've used that. I try not to use it just to keep it sharp. I try not to use it unless I have absolutely nothing. But that's come in handy several times. So I would say that this is the first tool. This is actually the first tool that you should probably consider
investing
getting. Yeah, and of course it comes with a little
case,
lanyard or not yet case, and you can put that on your belt. I keep it in my side pocket. Yeah, let's see. Oh,
2 other things over there.
Going down a list of importance. Obviously, if you have a hammer, I didn't mention a hammer because
everybody should have a hammer.
Well, if you've got this, you don't necessarily need a hammer. You're not going to be dealing with nails, so you don't really necessarily have to pull nails or something like that. But anyway, you could get a crosscut saw. There's a difference between going against the grain and going with the grain. This goes perpendicular to the grain, so this is called a crosscut saw. It has smaller teeth on it and a smaller kerf. If you guys don't know what kerf is, ask questions and I'll explain that.
Is that the?
Yeah. So okay, I'll go ahead and explain it. So you have the width of the blade, and if I turn this around, the teeth are actually going to be wider, a little bit wider than the saw itself.
Oh.
And so what that allows you to do is that allows you to cut into the wood, and the wood will have a tendency to swell and it'll kind of try to bind on you. So if you have your teeth are a little bit wider than the saw itself, and so that's what you'd call set in the saw. The set will give you the width of the kerf that you actually make when you're actually making a saw cut. So it's important to be able to set the saw and actually be able to sharpen the saw and know how to do that too. Because there's nothing worse than the more dull the saw is, the more dull your tool is, the more work it is for you. And you want to reduce calories, reduce fatigue when you're using hand tools.
Or make sure you have a whole bunch of carbs on hand, like those grains, the honey.
So, here's the question of the day.
Ooh, question of the day.
Does anybody know what this is?
I think I know what that is.
A little handle on it. Let's see if I can get in that camera again.
The question of the day.
Camera.
Hole punch, somebody said.
Wrong.
Sorry.
That was a good guess.
It's a good guess. It does look like a hole punch.
I would think it looks like a hole punch. I mean, remember in high school? And yeah.
I got some hole punches.
Here's the back side of it. If I can get it in the camera.
Somebody else said clamp and nutcracker. A tooth extractor.
It's got a little pin that runs up in there.
Tool?
Who said set tool?
Carolyn Smith.
She gets the gold star.
Gold star for Carolyn. Gold star for Carolyn.
Yes, it's called a tooth setter, and that is used for your saw. So you can, when you sharpen the teeth on the saw, you actually reduce the set in it just a little bit. And so you need to go through and reset these teeth to where they're out just a little bit more. So again, this is a crosscut saw. I don't have a rip saw, which cuts with the grain. So like if you're cutting lengthwise on a log or something like that, you're trying to flatten the side. You're trying to flatten the side on a log. Then you'd use a crosscut saw or not a rip saw instead of a crosscut saw. Yeah.
Interesting.
So the teeth are going to be bigger on a rip saw.
Yeah, see, I'm learning something new too. I'm glad I invited him in here to show us this stuff.
I'm trying to teach her so she can.
So the person that said tooth extractor was close, but not the right tooth. What is it? Somebody else says that pretty funny in there.
If you guess widget, that works.
Widget, yep, that works.
Thingamajigger.
It is a widget and a gadget.
So anyway,
the torture device was funny. You look like a scary dentist.
Another handy thing to have is a chisel.
Tammy.
Tammy says, are we having disobedient
I'm still going to offer my free dental services during the apocalypse.
Hey, you
guys are so fun.
Everybody's got to have a skill, you know. Here are a couple of chisels. Now, this is one of the old chisels that I got in that box of goodies. And I went ahead and shined this up and sharpened it for a little bit I wanted to talk a little bit about chisels. And if there's any guys in there, okay, everybody, when it comes to sharpening tools, you can have like 50 people tell you how to sharpen tools. And it'll all be the right way. And everybody else's way is like, So I'm one of those guys. But I want to let you know that when I get done with something, it usually works pretty good. So if it works, stick with it. This old chisel here, I feel very sorry for it. There's a couple more chisels there's a couple more chisels in that box that I should have brought in. Another way to get a good spanking is to even just touch the back side of this thing with a file. Don't do it. Don't ever do that, in my opinion. What happens is you'll have a tendency to round this off on the back side. You want this perfectly square and flat with the back side of your chisel. This chisel, somebody has filed down the sides of it. or on the backside here.
Oh.
Not a good idea, because what happens when you file this down to this point, that's going to put a round edge right on the tip here. You want that to be nice and square and sharp. So you can make good, nice, square, sharp corners in, when you're doing a Morrison tenon or something. If somebody ever does that, and I think you can see how that's beveled right there. In order to make this chisel right again, I have to take about maybe a 1/16 of an inch of this off and surface it clear back to the shank on this thing. You see how somebody's rounded that off? I don't know why they did that. Maybe they meant well. I have no idea. But yeah, in my opinion, don't do that. The only place you ever touch a file is on this face right here. And you want to keep this nice and square. I mean, I did this. I didn't do this with a file. I did this with a grinder, a 6-inch grinder. Here I'm out of the picture again. And so you can see I left this little piece, this little ribbon. Where's that doggone camera? I don't know if you guys can see that. Now you see that little ribbon on the top of that edge right there? A little bit of metal right there. That means it's sharp. You can see that ribbon. When you get to that point, stop filing. You focus on the square and then the flat face right here. See how that's shiny and flat clear across there? That's what you're looking for when you go to file. See that little ribbon right there? That is just barely on there, and that's where you want to be. Here's a piece of it that just came flaked off here. See that up there? Now that's really sharp on the end. Anyway, just some tools that you may consider putting in your grid down power out situation. I mean, there are more tools than that, but I mean, if I had to keep a priority, I'd say one of these first.
Your Leatherman.
One of these second. And believe it or not,
Little hatchet
third. And if you can muscle the area, you can get a lot more done with a longer handled axe, cutting firewood and stuff. And then the rest is just whatever you think is important. I do have a draw knife here. If you're thinking more long term, like skinning logs and stuff like this, I thought this was kind of neat. This is in that box, and this is a really old draw knife that needs a lot of love.
Is that for like debarking or whatever?
Yeah, you can take bark, or you can shape a log with it. You can flatten the top with it, and it's called a draw knife because you're drawing it towards you. But
see, I don't know all this stuff. That's why I have him.
Well, I'm teaching you, so I can just, retire.
No, I need you to stick around so you can deal with all this.
All that stuff.
No, I don't mind learning this stuff because, you just never know. And that's something to think about too, is that if you have a spouse and they're doing all that stuff, like I don't know how Mr. Ryan's going to make vinegar and wine when I'm, if I go before he does. But
you have to go without, I guess.
But I mean, we got to think if we're dependent on somebody else that we live with to do certain things for us, it's a good idea to at least have a little bit of know-how,
right,
or the ability to learn it, have books or whatever on hand so you can take care of this stuff in the event that they're not there to do it.
Especially medical stuff. I mean, hardly any of us think about how do you if you get a cut, okay, now what? Wrap it in a towel and hope for the best, or
break a leg, or
yeah. A lot of that stuff is some of those things that doesn't happen very often, so you don't think about it, but it's really important to think about
Right.
these things for sure.
Which is why I was putting together I still would like to do a few more videos, but I got that playlist on my basic list of essentials for certain things. And I have the one for medical essentials, like having some crutches on hand and, bandages. I mean, not just band-aids, but bandages, things to wrap stuff up, broken limbs or sprained limbs and then obviously learning how to make tinctures and extracts and what kind of herbs you need for various things. And just remember, you don't have to have every single medicinal herb there is out there. It's about finding just a few that are going to work best to cover all of your needs, because so many herbs out there have multiple uses. Like we were talking about the self heal, or even the comfrey or the dandelions, and there's a lot. You don't have to have it all, but knowing what you can grow, what's closest to you and what's going to work best for you and your family, these are the basics. And the same goes with your tools or anything else. And
Well, and if you have a few rudimentary tools, like I say, this is light. You can grab it and go with it. It doesn't take up much room. But with this tool, I could make a splint. I can make a shelter. I can sharpen something. You can. I can make a crutch out of this. And obviously, if you get a little bit bigger, something like this, then it's easier and faster to cut wood. So yeah, all these things are, the more stuff you have, the better off you are. But you got to kind of prioritize.
thanks for sharing that about Bear Independent. I always forget that he does have like some, I guess, really good first aid kits that he puts together and sells. I
Yeah.
didn't realize he was also offering first aid courses, but that's something. I don't know how I missed that part, but yeah. So Bear Independent, he has his own channel, so I'd look into him if you're interested in learning more about that kind of stuff. So I think Zach has bought a couple of his first aid kits, if nothing else, just to support him.
Right.
So, yeah.
Here's something to look into.
So I think if you're done, I think that's really all I had to talk about today, which is, we're already, how long we've been doing this? An hour and 37 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, which is usually about the time that I go, but I did go for 2 hours one time. But I got to save some stuff to talk about next week. So, and I enjoy doing these live shows. I'm glad that I'm finally able to do these again, because they're so much fun, especially when Mr. Rain can join us and share his little input, and we can goof around and have fun, and the more direct, not fully direct, but somewhat direct interaction. Is your voice, my voice is actually holding out today. Okay. I was afraid earlier because it kind of felt like maybe it wasn't going to. I never know. I had that one day, I think I was only on here for 45 minutes and my vocal cord said, "You're done." And it was kind of embarrassing because I couldn't talk and I was coughing. I hate it when it happens. It doesn't happen that bad that often, but sometimes it will happen on a day where I'm maybe shooting 2 or 3 videos back to back and I'm like, can't do it today. So anyway, yeah, so I think that's it for today, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much again to my moderators. Thank you for everyone who came in here and your input and just, and the fun and all of it, and just showing your love and support for us. We really, really appreciate it, and hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for dropping in. Take care, and
God bless.
God bless.